Shedeur Sanders didn't flinch. Despite being the target of Jeudy's sideline anger, the rookie quarterback kept his composure, walking away from the confrontation and later doubling down on teamwork in post-game comments. While Jeudy's actions triggered a formal investigation and put suspension on the table, it was Sanders' calm that reframed the narrative. In a league where rookies are often expected to earn their stripes, Sanders showed leadership under pressure, something not every veteran in that moment managed to do. His maturity is making waves internally and around the league. For a first-year player to take the high road, especially when provoked publicly, speaks volumes. And in a Browns team wrestling with its identity, Sanders is starting to look less like a backup and more like a foundation. Whether Cleveland moves on from Jeudy or tries to rehabilitate the locker room dynamic, the message is becoming clearer. Leadership is earned through actions, not age. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Jeudy didn't just make headlines. He lit a firestorm. During a recent Browns game against the Bears, sideline cameras caught Jeudy in what can only be described as a volatile outburst aimed squarely at rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. No subtle tension, no whispered words. This was face-to-face, in-your-face aggression, and the footage spread like wildfire across NFL media channels. For those watching, it wasn't just a volume of the body language. It was the optics. A veteran wide receiver losing composure and barking at a rookie quarterback mid-game? That's not leadership. That's ego. And in a league that prides itself on professionalism and locker room culture, the moment sparked a wave of backlash that hasn't stopped since. Shedeur Sanders, for his part, didn't retaliate. He didn't jaw back. In his post-game statements, he focused on growth, chemistry, and team unity. No shots fired. No veiled digs. Just a calm, collected approach that immediately earned him praise from fans and analysts alike. It's not often a rookie becomes the adult in the room, but that's exactly what Sanders did, and the contrast was jarring. One player throwing a sideline tantrum, the other trying to hold it together for the sake of the team. Sanders made it clear he wasn't interested in drama. He was focused on winning, on learning, on staying accountable. Now the NFL is involved. The league has launched a formal review into Jeudy's sideline behavior, examining whether it violated player conduct policy. If they decide he crossed a line, and many believe he did, he's staring down a potential suspension, multiple games, no paycheck, reputational damage that doesn't wash off easily. Jeudy hasn't spoken publicly since the incident, but his past behavior and body language are being dissected from every angle. Was this just a moment of frustration, or part of a larger pattern? For someone expected to be a leader, the optics are bad, and the silence isn't helping. What makes the entire situation even more uncomfortable is how much Sanders has had to prove in such a short time. A rookie quarterback thrown into a shaky system, with veteran teammates who clearly aren't always supportive. And yet, he's kept his head down, focused on execution, and shown resilience most wouldn't expect from a first-year player. Despite the pressure, despite the cameras, and now despite internal tension, Sanders hasn't cracked. He's owned mistakes publicly. He's credited his teammates after wins and losses. If anything, the way he handled this blow-up might have just solidified him as a long-term leader. Voices like Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson have weighed in, and they didn't hold back. Sharp, in particular, called the interaction unacceptable, stressing that veterans should lift up young talent, not tear them down. When NFL legends start calling you out, you know it's serious. And they're not wrong. For all the intensity of NFL games, sideline respect is non-negotiable. Raising your voice? That happens. But trying to embarrass your quarterback in front of cameras and teammates? That's a different beast. And a line Jeudy may have crossed without thinking twice. Head coach Kevin Stefanski hasn't said much publicly either. When asked about the incident, he deflected with a stock answer about passion and competitive environments. But internally, there are growing questions about whether this locker room is under control. Because this wasn't just a minor spat. It's a flashing red light that signals something's off in the chemistry, in the leadership, and possibly in the culture that Stefanski is trying to build. If this is how veterans treat rookies mid-season, what does that say about accountability behind the... And let's not forget, the Browns have had a season full of tension, losses piling up, fans booing, analysts questioning play calls, and leadership. This latest blow-up just poured gasoline on a situation that was already teetering. The match against the Bears was supposed to be about turning a corner. Instead, it turned into a referendum on professionalism, on behavior, on who actually runs the show in Cleveland. Spoiler, it's not looking like Jeudy won. Jeudy's recent performances haven't helped his case. Drops, missed reads, body language that reads more frustrated than focused. Fans have noticed. Commentators have noticed. The pressure has been building. And when Sanders misses a read, it's like Jeudy let the whole thing boil over. That moment on the sideline didn't come from nowhere. It came from a wide out who's struggling to make an impact, watching a rookie get more grace and spotlight. It came from a place of ego and maybe a fear that his role is slipping. Meanwhile, Sanders has kept things professional in every interview. No finger-pointing, no subtle digs. When asked about leadership, he talked about earning trust. When asked about the incident, he pivoted to what the team needs to do better. That kind of poise doesn't just win games. It earns respect. Sanders is showing exactly the kind of mental toughness teams want in a franchise quarterback. He's learning fast, not just how to read defenses, but how to handle grown men acting out in front of millions. So now the Browns have a decision to make. If the NFL does suspend Jeudy, does the team stick by him? Or is this the moment to cut ties and double down on their rookie quarterback? The incident didn't just raise questions about conduct. It cracked open a bigger question. Who is the real future of this team? Because in a league where chemistry matters just as much as talent, one public blow-up can tilt a locker room. And this one might have done just that. Whether they act now or in the offseason, the Browns need to decide, are they building around ego or around growth? The uncomfortable truth is this. Jerry Jeudy wasn't just yelling at Shedeur Sanders, he was flexing. On a rookie, in front of cameras. In a moment where composure mattered, Jeudy crumbled. And now, he's on the brink of being labeled something no pro athlete wants to be called. Uncoachable. Veteran or not, that kind of behavior doesn't sit right with teams trying to build something real. No amount of athleticism can cover for emotional instability. When it starts to fracture the locker room, Jeudy's defenders say it was heat of the moment. Critics say it was the latest red flag. Go back to preseason, and the difference between the two players was already visible. Sanders, fresh off college, came in humble, focused, and eager to adapt. He never promised perfection, but he consistently owned his development, talking about adjustments, learning curves, and finding rhythm with his teammates. Every time Sanders addressed the media, he spoke with clarity. No finger-pointing, no ego, just accountability. And when early losses piled up, he didn't shrink from the pressure. He leaned in. That's not something you teach. It's something you... During the Bengals game, Sanders took hit after hit and still kept getting up. His stats weren't perfect, but his resolve was. You could see it. The flashes of franchise potential. The way he moved the pocket. The way he communicated on the sideline. The trust starting to build with his receivers. And yet, those moments are exactly what likely triggered Jeudy. Because when a rookie starts getting that kind of attention, when fans and coaches start talking about future, some veterans take it personally. And instead of mentoring, they go on the offensive. The irony? Jeudy's been in Sanders' shoes. He knows what it's like to be the young talent with all eyes watching. But somewhere along the way, he lost that perspective. Maybe it was the trades, the system changes, or just the weight of expectations. Whatever it was, it hardened into resentment. And resentment is poison in football. It doesn't stay quiet. It spills over, onto the field, into the huddle, and as we now know, onto the sideline in full view of the world. So where does Kevin Stefanski go from here? His post-game interviews have been vague, sure, but behind the scenes, this is a crisis. One player is acting like the face of the franchise. The other is acting like he owns it. And that disconnect is a problem no head coach can ignore. If Stefanski doesn't establish clear boundaries, he risks letting the culture spiral. Because once young players see that veterans can behave this way without consequences, respect evaporates. And without respect, you don't have a locker room, you have chaos. Despite the drama, Sanders hasn't missed a beat. At practice, he's still studying film, running drills, and working to improve chemistry with his receivers. He's not pouting. He's not ranting. He's not letting one moment define his narrative. That kind of mental strength matters more than stats. Because in the NFL, development isn't just physical, it's psychological. And Sanders is proving that he's not just here to survive, he's here to lead. Jeudy's next move will speak volumes. If he issues a statement, owns a moment, and commits to being better, that might cool things down. But if he stays quiet or worse, deflects blame, the rift will only grow. And if the NFL hands down a suspension, that'll be the league's way of saying, we saw it, and it's not okay. It'll be a public mark on his record. And in a league where reputations can change overnight, that's not a good place to be. 1. Photos from recent games show the shift. Sanders in the huddle, commanding attention. Jeudy on the sideline, arms crossed, face tight. The body language is telling. One player looks like he's trying to unite. The other looks like he's waiting for a reason to explode. That kind of energy isn't sustainable. Not in a franchise trying to reset, rebuild, and reestablish a winning identity. The Browns need cohesion, not confrontation. This whole episode has cracked open a bigger truth about the Browns. The culture is still fragile. Too many voices. Not enough direction. When things go right, it works. But when pressure hits, the cracks show fast. And that's why this Jeudy Sanders moment isn't just a headline, it's a mirror. A reflection of deeper issues about leadership, ego, and the expectations placed on young quarterbacks versus seasoned vets. In a recent interview, Sanders was asked how he keeps calm amid chaos. His response? Control what you can control. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't emotional. It was grounded. And that's exactly why he's gaining respect, not just inside the Browns building, but around the league. He's showing that leadership isn't about volume. It's about consistency, about owning your role, even when others won't own theirs. And in that way, he's already more mature than some of the veterans around him. From the moment Shedeur Sanders showed up to Browns training camp, the conversation shifted, not just about his mechanics or arm strength, but about his presence. He wasn't loud. He wasn't trying to dominate the spotlight, but he carried himself with intention, and people noticed. Veterans like Jeudy could have taken that as a signal to guide, to mentor, to build something. Instead, it became clear to insiders that not everyone was thrilled about the new energy Sanders brought in, and that tension, it's been bubbling for weeks. 1. Jeudy's demeanor on the field has reflected that frustration. Cameras have caught him walking off during huddles. Body language that screams disengaged. Eye rolls during play calls. Those aren't just small things. They're signals. And when those signals go unchecked, the whole team starts to feel it. The Browns brought Jeudy in to be a contributor, maybe even a leader. But instead of elevating those around him, he's gotten caught in his own spiral. And now it's spilling over for the whole world to see. Coach Stefanski isn't just facing questions from the media. He's under internal pressure, too. Sources around the team say leadership meetings have turned tense, with some staff questioning why certain behaviors are being tolerated. If the coach won't set the standard, who will? Because this isn't about one argument. It's about whether the Browns are serious about culture or just using that word when it's convenient. If a player publicly disrespects the quarterback and nothing happens, that sends a message louder than any press conference. During one of the more recent games, Sanders spent part of the second half on the sideline after taking a few tough hits. Trainers worked on him. Cameras panned. And right there, you could see again Jeudy pacing, animated, disconnected. No check-in. No support. That's not what teammates do. Not if you're locked in. Not if you actually care about the guy under center. And moments like that, they tell the truth louder than any interview soundbite ever could. As an organization, are at a crossroads. They've cycled through QBs, coaching changes, PR disasters, and rebuilds. And just when it seemed like things were stabilizing, this firestorm hits. If they want to build a team with long-term success, they can't afford to ignore these dynamics. Letting veteran ego run unchecked sends the exact opposite message to young talent trying to buy into the vision. And Sanders? He's still speaking with poise. After the dust-up, he talked about growing pains and building chemistry. He didn't name names. He didn't get petty. He stayed high road. That's what makes this story so compelling, because the rookie is showing more maturity than the guy who's supposed to be guiding him. And every time Sanders takes a mic, he makes that gap even clearer without saying outright. So far, Jeudy's been noticeably absent from meaningful accountability. No apology, no acknowledgement, just silence, and the kind that gets louder every day. You can't preach leadership if you disappear the moment things get uncomfortable. And with the NFL still reviewing footage, that silence might cost him more than just goodwill. A suspension isn't just a punishment, it's a statement. A declaration that behavior like this won't be tolerated, no matter how many years you've been in the league. Look back at how this season's gone, and this incident feels like the moment where everything started to crack. The Browns have been inconsistent at best. Glimpses of promise followed by sloppy execution. And now, public infighting. It's hard to win games when your sideline is fractured. Harder still when the quarterback and receiver don't trust each other. That kind of dysfunction doesn't just go away. It festers, and it spreads. During a post-game press conference, Sanders was asked directly about the sideline moment. He paused. He didn't dodge. He just said, "We all want to win. Sometimes emotions spill over. I'm focused on controlling what I can and being better next time." That's the difference. He didn't escalate. He didn't pretend it didn't happen. He acknowledged it like a pro, then moved forward. That's exactly the kind of response that builds locker room trust. Quiet strength, unshakable focus. Show Sanders back at work. Helmet on, sleeves rolled up, talking his offensive line, adjusting reads. No signs of drama. Just football. Just focus. While the headlines swirl and Jeudy's future hangs in the balance, Sanders is still doing what he's supposed to do. Because that's what franchise quarterbacks do. They show up. They set the tone. They let their play and poise speak louder than any shouting match ever could. You look at the stills from that sideline altercation, and it's crystal clear Jerry Jeudy wasn't just frustrated. His face said it all. Intensity turned to hostility. His body language didn't read like a teammate trying to fix a play. It read like someone trying to establish dominance. That's not leadership. That's a control problem. Jeudy's critics aren't just talking about his behavior. They're pointing to a pattern. When things don't go his way, when he doesn't get the touches or the spotlight, the tension shows. The Browns gave him a chance to reset his image. Instead, he set it on fire. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is out here doing everything he can to stabilize the team. He's not lighting up every stat sheet, but he's making clutch throws, avoiding panic, and slowly earning trust from his receivers. Well, some of them. Fans have started compiling his best moments, comparing his footwork and composure to other young stars around the league. And the sentiment is growing. This kid might be the real deal. He's not flashy off the field, but on it, he's quietly grinding his way toward franchise potential. After the confrontation went viral, Kevin Stefanski had no choice but to address it, at least vaguely. In his post-game interview, he described it as a passionate moment between players who care, the usual deflection. But everyone watching knew what wasn't being said. There was no public reprimand, no confirmation that Jeudy would be held accountable. And for a team struggling to establish a new culture, that felt like a missed opportunity. Sometimes silence isn't neutral, it's permission. I've been here before, at a crossroads between potential and collapse. This season was supposed to be about laying the foundation for something stable, something sustainable. Instead, they're now dealing with headlines about player behavior and fractured leadership. The question isn't just about who's starting at quarterback. It's about what kind of team this franchise wants to be. Are they going to protect players who cross the line, or are they going to invest in someone who's already showing leadership beyond his years? Every time Shedeur Sanders speaks, he reinforces what a future leader sounds like. He doesn't give hot takes. He gives grounded responses. Even when talking about mistakes, he takes full accountability, no excuses, no spin. That kind of maturity at his age isn't just rare, it's magnetic, and people inside the building see it. Staff, assistants, even some veterans. There's a growing belief that Sanders might be the culture reset this team desperately needs. But that only works if leadership clears out the noise standing in his way. As for Jeudy, the silence is getting heavier. No apology, no team meeting, just awkward energy and a disciplinary cloud hanging overhead. That might work in the short term, but it's not sustainable. The locker room knows when something's off. And if he doesn't address it soon, publicly or internally, it's going to get harder to walk it back. Because once trust is gone, it doesn't come back with a few highlight plays. Especially not from a player who's lost the benefit of the doubt. Back at the mic after a tight loss, Sanders didn't even bring up the incident. He talked about play execution, improving tempo, and finding rhythm in the second half. The only thing he mentioned about the sideline, we'll handle things the right way. That one line said everything. He's not just trying to play quarterback. He's trying to lead. And even when others on the team can't match that energy, he's not stooping. That's why fans are starting to rally behind him. Not because he's perfect, but because he's consistent. And that consistency shows up every single week in practice. Sanders is first in drills, last off the field, and rarely caught slacking. Coaches say his film work is obsessive. Teammates say he doesn't let drama derail him. And that's probably the biggest difference between him and Jeudy right now. While one is reacting, the other is recalibrating. And in a league built on pressure and perception, the player who stays focused through chaos is the one who lasts. Sanders isn't just playing through adversity. He's building a reputation in the fire. So now it's on the Browns. Will they protect his function or prioritize discipline? Will they keep trying to patch over broken dynamics or finally commit to a quarterback who's proving, through words, actions, and growth, that he's worth building around? Time's ticking. The fans see it. The league sees it. And maybe, just maybe, Sanders is the one who saw it all coming before anyone else did. If you've been following this saga, don't forget to drop a comment with your take on whether the Browns should stick with Jeudy or move on. Hit like if you think Sanders deserves more respect. And make sure you're subscribed because this drama, it's far from over.